The world famous Butch and Bob Show.
World famous Butch and Bob Show here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup, Big Dog Country Radio. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Going well. Your bracket's still hanging in there.
Bracket's intact. So.
Your bracket's still intact. That is fantastic.
12 of 16 teams still alive. So
that's pretty good.
I feel pretty good.
You ought to feel pretty good.
Yep.
Well, we've got State Representative Stephen Meeks on the phone with us, and we got some guests in the green room. So, Bob, let's go ahead and begin with Stephen.
It's Mondays with Meeks and Stephen. This is the last week of the session. It's winding down, so tell us what's on the schedule for today.
I will do that, and I just can't hear you, Bob. Good morning. Hope everyone is well at home. Today's committee day. Tomorrow will be day 39 of the 40-day legislative session. Today there will be a Senate Rules Committee today. Many of the House members will be over in Senate Rules Committee trying to give them one last push to get some of the legislation out that House members have carried to the Senate floor by Thursday. Then we'll convene tomorrow for what I understand, and talking to leadership will be a long day. I think we've got 15 bills on the calendar already, and Rules Committee will meet again tomorrow to add some more to that as we're leading up to signing dial on Thursday. Wednesday will also be a committee day to continue work and from at the committee level, and then Thursday signing die.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's winding down. We say all the time you have to pass the budget, so when will the budget be approved?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Bob?
Hello? I can hear him. He can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can now. Yes, sir.
Okay. As we mentioned, it's always about the budget. When will the budget be approved?
We should be hearing. We should have an update on that later this morning. I know that the conferees worked through the weekend. Chairman Tillery and Chairman Hatchett here in the House and House budget staff worked through the weekend to on the conference report. So hopefully we will see that possibly tomorrow. My guess is it'll be Thursday, but we'll have a better update today as we see some of the chairman moving around the Capitol as to where they are in that process. But I know that they did work through the weekend trying to finish that up.
Well, I know the goal is for everybody to get out of there by the end of the week, but I'm sure there's some controversial issues coming up. What are going to be some of the big battles in this final week? What do we need to know about?
I just can't hear you, Bob.
He said he can't hear me.
I just can't hear you.
What are some of the key issues that we need to know about in this last week?
Well, budget's the big one that we'll finish up, as I mentioned, by Thursday. Sports betting still out there. There was a committee hearing on last week. There's another hearing scheduled for Wednesday of this week. Don't believe that we have the votes in the House to pass that, but that's one of the ones that continues to linger out there. Of course, we're still working on Okefenokee to see where that goes. We've got some things, possibly moving. We had one of the bills to come out of committee last week that would put a moratorium on mining near the Okefenokee. It is, but we'll wait and see where that goes. I haven't talked to the author of the bill this morning to see what his outlook is. So those are some of the last remaining ones hanging out there, and then we'll finish up signing die on Thursday, and I look forward to getting home.
Sounds good. Well, again, we appreciate you being here every Mondays with Meeks, and wish you the best of luck in this final week, and hopefully you all get out of there by Thursday and be home for Easter weekend.
Great. Yes, sir. I look forward to it. Look forward to seeing y'all at the ball field.
Yeah, see you there, and we'll see you at the post-legislative luncheon. The chamber has that date set up, so we'll see you there as well.
Look forward to it.
Okay, Stephen, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great day, and thank you for the opportunity to always call in on Monday morning and visit with you and the listeners from back at home. So appreciate all y'all do, and look forward to seeing you at home.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right, see you soon.
Thanks so much.
All right, take care, Stephen. State Representative Stephen Meeks here on the world famous Butch and Bob show here on WIFO. We got guests in the green room. They'll be on the air in just a moment.
South Georgia weather.
Here's your WIFO forecast.
Good morning, everyone. Cloudy and very breezy today. A little on the cool side as well. Highs will be in the mid-60s. Cloudy tonight with a low near 60 degrees. Tomorrow's partly cloudy and much warmer. Highs pop right back into the mid-70s. On Wednesday, more clouds around. Scattered showers and storms throughout the day, but we're still warm with a high in the mid-70s. I'm Georgia meteorologist Laura Huckabee in the GNN Weather Center.
When further treatment is no longer an option, hospice can provide services to manage symptoms and difficulties caused by illness. Emotional, psychosocial, and spiritual care, as well as support to the families and caregivers, are all part of hospice care. Hospice of South Georgia has been a part of the health community in Wayne and surrounding counties since 1998. The professional yet compassionate attention provided by our staff is unsurpassed. Widely supported by donations from the local population, Hospice of South Georgia is the local nonprofit hospice in Wayne County. Our administrative office is located at 1625 Sunset Boulevard, and Hospice of South Georgia accepts anyone who meets hospice criteria, regardless of their ability to pay. Please call 912-588-0080 to speak with someone about hospice care. That was 912-588-0080. We are your hometown hospice, and we are here to serve you. Hospice of South Georgia, working to add life to your days.
Big Dog Country Radio, WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup. We continue on with the world famous Butch and Bob show here on WIFO. Bob, who do we have?
We got several guests in the studio. It's going to start with the Warren Walker booth. Again, there's a second protest. One took place in November. It's going to take place Wednesday in front of the DA's office. Warren, you've been organizing this event, so you organized the last one. So first of all, just tell us the purpose of the event and why you're organizing such an event and what you hope to accomplish.
Okay, thank you for having us this morning. Really appreciate being here and having the opportunity to speak. The protest is be this Wednesday from 11 to 3 in front of the DA's office. The purpose of the first protest was around trying to get a grand jury, this whole case to the grand jury and get an indictment on this thing. But at this point, we're looking at all the evidence, all the things that he's gotten and the action that has not been taken. I'm not even sure this is the guy we want to handle the case, to be honest with you, Bob. I mean, he's got 205 pages of GBI investigation reports that he's not acted on. And instead of moving forward with what should be easy to take to the grand jury, he's more interested in discrediting our sheriff's department and our law enforcement officers. So, our message out there for this particular protest is that we have these victims have a right to be heard, and they've not been given that right because this district attorney has not moved forward. If you look at the big picture, Bob, in 2023, there have been 200 felony cases that have not been indicted in Wayne County. Okay, if you look at a 3-year period where he's been in office, that would, average out to about 600 cases. If you take that by 5 counties he's over, that's 3,000 felonies that are felons that are walking the streets, drug dealers, rapists, murderers are walking the street because he's not doing his job. And so we really just feel like the victims deserve better than that. Wayne County deserves better than that.
We followed this case from the get-go. Like I said, I reported again this morning, not one, but not two, but 3 bond hearings. Again, Tiffany Montenegro was assistant DA. She presented the state's case. She presented all this evidence. She's the one that stated they had 11 women come forward after the John Yankowski arrest and claimed that they suffered the same consequence that the undercover agent did, that they were drugged and sexually assaulted. I mean, all that was state's evidence. That was Tiffany Montenegro, who worked with the DA's office, presenting that in front of a Superior Court judge, demanding that bond be denied, and bond was denied twice. Then all of a sudden she disappears. She's gone, and Nigel Lush shows up, and all of a sudden everything starts changing. So that's the question I keep asking. I can't get no answers for, but the question continues: why wasn't it just taken to the grand jury? That's my continue too. The DA's office, district attorney is not judge, jury, executioner. The duty of the DA is to present that evidence to a Wayne County grand jury, 23 people, and let them decide whether or not it has the valid to go forward to a trial. And that's the contention I keep asking. Why wasn't it ever taken to the grand jury? Why wasn't this ever presented to the grand jury? Why wasn't all this evidence that they presented in court with their lead investigator, who still is employed with the Wayne County Sheriff's Department? Sheriff Mosley defended him and said he's been to the DA several times and said, tell me what he's done wrong. And if he's done something wrong, we'll take action. But nothing's been presented there either. So it's very frustrating. And as I mentioned in my news case, that's not the only case. There's several other serious cases out there that they just have not taken to the grand jury. I mean, the list goes on and on. So that's the frustration, and that's, can't seem to get any answers. They're talking after the first protest back in November, then he decides they're going to let the GBI come and investigate it, but nobody knows where that investigation is. I know it's been completed almost 7 weeks ago, but nothing to this point. So I want you to introduce the two people you have with you. Again, these are supposedly ladies who claim they were victimized as well, so we're going to let them talk.
So to my left is my wife, Jan Wagamuth, and beside her is Holly. And Holly, I'll forgive me, but I don't remember your last name.
Manning.
Okay.
So who wants to go first? Let's go with Jan first.
Okay.
Jan,
Yes.
we interviewed you at the first protest. You
Right.
basically stated emphatically what happened to you. You're not making any bones about it. So we'll just let you tell the audience your story and the frustration you have at this point.
Well, 9 years ago, I was drugged, raped, and beaten. Since then, I didn't come forward because I didn't think the law would believe me, because it was a whole different administration back then that were friends with the people. But then back in June of last year, John was arrested for the same exact thing. So I felt like it was my civic duty to come forward, give my statement. And, I just thought that was, the thing that I needed to do. And Keith Higgins, if he had acted the least bit, interested or like he cared, I'd have been fine with, we don't have enough evidence. But he never did that. So.
And you went down and made a statement at the DA's office, right? Is that correct?
I was what?
I said you made your statement after like I said, what Tiffany Montenegro stated in court was that after the arrest of John Gronkowski, 11 women came down to the DA's office and made sworn statements. I mean, she's up in court showing the judge we've got 11 statements from women who claim the same thing happened to them. That's why we want bond to be denied. So that's where you made your statement, right? You took it down to the DA's office, right?
Right.
And the other women did too, as well,
Right.
thinking they would get their day in court.
Exactly.
But it hasn't transpired.
And then Tiffany was gone, before we knew it. And then Lush came in and dropped everything.
Does anybody know
Just
why
left-
Tiffany's left? Like I said, we tried to talk to Tiffany. She won't talk to us, but understand from other people. Introduce yourself. I'm sorry.
I'm Holly Manning, sorry. The thing about Keith is if it's not benefiting him at the time, he's going to get rid of them. He's done this in our Jesup office with his crime victims advocacy and people in the office. He told me that himself when we were sitting down
Move
with
closer to the
him.
microphone.
When we were sitting down speaking to him, he told us that all of these people that were here when he was voted in, they're gone now. Everybody's gone. So if it's not benefiting Keith, they're gone. They don't exist anymore.
And tell us your story.
My story is about the same as Jan's, except that I had a friend with me that night, and she knew after about 15 minutes something was wrong with me and that I wasn't acting okay. And if it wasn't for her putting me in a car that night, I would be where Jan's at. And she put me in that vehicle, and we were so young, and I don't hold it against anybody because we were young, and I didn't go get medical help when I should have.
When y'all went down to made your statements, did Tiffany Montenegro believe y'all? Did she?
Oh, yes, she did.
I mean, she was the one that was the first
She
two bond
totally
hearings,
believed it, yes.
presenting all this evidence with the detective. I mean, that's the state's case.
Right.
Honestly, everybody
That's what
believed
drives
us.
me. That's what I can't understand. They're trying to say the state has no evidence, but this was the state's case presented in court twice to get bond denied. That's the state's evidence. That's the
Exactly.
person presenting it to the judge. It wasn't the defense. They hadn't a defense attorney. They were
Right.
making a good argument that bond should be granted, but the first two bond hearings, Tiffany Montenegro was making all this state's evidence saying that bond should be denied. So the question is, why didn't they take that evidence to the grand jury and seek an indictment? That's the $64,000 question.
Well, the whole deal with her disappearing or leaving the office is really kind of mysterious because at the end of the day, before that hearing, Jan was contacted by the victim's advocate and said, hey, the hearing is going to be tomorrow morning, and we got that call late in the evening, but you don't need to attend because we hadn't had time to prepare you. Well, that dude been in jail for 4.5 months. Why didn't they have time to prepare her? And so we just thought, Tiffany had already won these bond hearings, and we thought that's all this was about. We were shocked the next morning to find out that the charges had been dismissed. We had no clue that was coming. And then we set up an appointment to go to the DA's office, and here was Nigel Lush. We didn't even know he existed. We had Tiffany over here saying, hey, we got you. This case is we have a case. And then all of a sudden, Nigel Lush didn't speak to a single victim. He comes in and dismisses all the charges. And then we meet with Higgins, and the first thing he tells us is, I never looked at the case. I never saw the files. That's just crazy. And then he wants to lead into we didn't have a complete case file. And so he brings in the GBI. And right now, Higgins is sitting on 205 pages of GBI investigation, yet he's not acted upon. And we don't know what's going on. It's almost like the DA's office is trying to sabotage the whole case. And that's what I don't understand. Why do we have 14 victims now? That aren't getting justice, and again, if we went before the grand jury and there wasn't enough evidence, it is what it is. But we believe there is enough evidence, and I can't get into the details of what I know, but I know a lot about what's in that file, and there's definitely enough evidence to take this to grand jury, and I just don't know that Higgins has any interest in it. Right now, there's 27 devices that they're getting downloaded, and Higgins is telling me that he won't move forward with the case until these devices have been downloaded. He had no interest in those devices when Chuck first presented them. He didn't want anything to do with them. Now he's hanging his whole hat on the devices. I'm very interested in what's on the devices. I think that'll be the final straw because I think the information that we need is going to be on there to solve this case once and for all.
It just seems something's rotten in Denmark because I think Tiffany Montenegro needs to be on the witness stand and testify to what she knows because, like I said, she's the one to present all the state's evidence. She's the one that stated that bond should be denied. She's the one that stated that they had a case. And all of a sudden she's gone and, she's just quiet as a church mouse. I can't get her to talk at all about the case and, give any, so. And like you said, it seems to me like the DA's strategy right now is not for justice for these women, is for let's discredit the officer. They had that Giglio case. Supposedly that was going to take place, and that's the discredit an officer. And a big crowd showed up at the courthouse. We got notified that it was going to take place that morning. We showed up. The paper showed up. A bunch of people showed up. The officer showed up with his attorney, and all of a sudden it was no longer on the docket. So the social media is still out there discrediting this officer, ruining his reputation. But the sheriff was here a week ago, and we asked him, where do we stand? Talked to Kicklighter yesterday by phone. He's still employed by the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. So, all that talk on social media about he's been reprimanded, he's been fired, all that's false.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise around social media, but that's not, not relevant because at the end of the day, that's just talk. But I tell you, I think Chuck and his group have really stuck their necks out, but they've done the best they can to provide justice in this county, and they've made some tough choices and righteous choices. But at the end of the day, they can only do what they can do, and without the DA's support. And here's my concern, Bob. I don't think that law enforcement throughout his district supports Higgins at all, and I think he's earned that. They wanted to support him, but he's not supported them. And so I really think it's going to be a struggle for him to maintain that re-election, and I hope that's the case.
Me too. That's what we need here is a different DA. We need John B. Johnson.
And going back to the victims being caught the night before, they do this to all victims. They do it to all of them. It's not just this particular scenario. It's other people. They don't keep to what they're saying. And like I said, there's so many people that they go through that you don't even know who's holding what. You don't know.
Like I said, I just still don't understand why it wasn't taken to a grand jury. It's just mind-boggling to me after listening to those two first bond hearings by Tiffany Montenegro demanding that bond be denied, stating they had all these statements, all these women came forward, and the question is, where's their justice? I mean, I'm surprised women's advocate groups hasn't come forward and, asked why aren't these women and like I said, we're not saying anything about innocence or guilt because everybody's innocent until proven guilty, but the question is, why can't these supposedly alleged victims get their day in court? That's all they're seeking. That's what you've been seeking from day one. And,
Yep.
and
Make sure that
if it doesn't go to a grand jury, it's not going to go to court. So that's why he got the bond the third time, because the state law says you can't hold somebody forever. Mm-hmm. So that's why the bond was granted.
This past week, Governor Kemp signed into law this district attorney oversight committee. And, as he gave his commencement speech about it, he talked about Georgia would no longer tolerate rogue prosecutors that put their personal agenda ahead of the safety of our communities. And I never have been more proud of Governor Kemp for his statement, because I believe he means it, and I believe he was behind it. I think right now that Higgins is a perfect candidate for him to look at.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, again, the protest is scheduled for Wednesday. So, again,
Yes.
I know you're encouraging people to come, but what do you plan to gain from the protest? Do you think?
A different district attorney.
Absolutely.
I mean, just in front of the grand jury, And, well, if John Johnson looks at the case and says, there's not enough to win, I'll be fine with that.
Right.
But
My
I don't
issue
know.
has always been that Keith is not capable of doing his job. He's just not.
He's
And
not
it's
at all.
shown. It's shown over and over and over again with several other people. He is not capable of doing his job. And what people don't know is that our tax dollars do pay these paychecks of these elected officials, and we can now remove them. And that should be important, and people should understand that and know that.
And I think people would be fine if they took it to the grand jury and the grand jury says there's not any evidence.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
but that's the purpose of a grand jury. That's why you got 23 people from Wayne County on the grand jury,
Yes.
because they look at that evidence and they decide whether you have a case to proceed to trial. But that's the question. Why hasn't it been taken to the grand jury? No one seems to have that answer.
No.
I can't get the answer. I've asked over and over and over.
We have the same questions,
I mean,
Bob. And it's
Yes.
just, I think Higgins was probably a very good defense attorney. He probably needs to go back doing that.
I agree.
exactly.
Well, he's not. He doesn't prosecute cases. I mean, that's my big issue
No,
with him as
not
well.
at all.
I've been here 41 years, and Glenn Thomas from John B. Johnson, Stephen Kelly, the DA prosecuted cases. The DA stood before the 12-member jury and said, we need a guilty verdict on this case. I mean, that's the history of DAs in Wayne County. This is the first DA I can think of that claims he's just an office manager and just, but their success rate's not very good. Let me still go back to that Lester Dennison murder trial. That was not very good at all. That poor guy got shot in the back twice, and the evidence seemed to be there, but the man that they had presenting the case didn't know where Wayne County was. It was just not a very well presented case, and the two defendants walked. And the poor lady that gave state's evidence, she's still in jail, and all she did was take the guy up to the Jiffy store to, where he got the fake money from. I mean, she got railroaded, in my opinion. I mean, she's still in jail. And
Look at the history of some
she
of the
turned
cases.
state's evidence. She helped the state with their case. They didn't win the case, but I mean, she's still in jail to this day.
That's just crazy. But you look back at each county, and there's just numerous cases where
Yeah, we're not the only county like this.
No,
I mean,
it's a train wreck
No.
throughout. It's
talking
just
to
out
other
of control.
sheriffs, I mean, cases are being dropped left and right. I mean, that's what Sheriff Mosey's concern is. There's a huge case out there with fentanyl, and they're talking about that possibly. He said if they drop that case, he'll definitely be on the Butch and Bob show the next day because I mean, law enforcement, I mean, they're just frustrated. I mean, they're
Very
supposed to
much so.
supposed to be working closely with the DA's office. I mean, they go out there, put their life on the line day in and day out. They make these cases, and then when nothing happens, it's like, why are we doing this?
And then you have a district attorney that's coming back and attacking them that don't even know them, attacking their work and saying their work is not credible.
You got any idea why he's trying to go after Kicklighter? I mean,
I don't know. I know that from the get-go, the DA had no interest in pursuing this case. That the sheriff's office had actually set up an appointment with Higgins to discuss the case, because the DA's job is to make sure that they're guiding the law enforcement in the right direction. Higgins was in town and failed to make that meeting. Okay, he has had no interest in this thing from the get-go, and so again, we just don't trust that he has any interest in prosecuting this case whatsoever. And just looking back at how many cases have not been indicted and how many dangerous felons are walking the street because he's not doing his job.
Well, again, we'll be at the protest on Wednesday. We appreciate y'all coming in. We'll continue to follow it. Like I said, it's a mystery to me why it hasn't been taken to a grand jury after Tiffany Montenegro demanded that bond be denied not once but twice, and claimed she had all these sworn statements from all these women that were sexually assaulted and drugged by the defendant. That's where we're at.
And as we've always said during this whole process, that these chairs are open for Higgins or anybody from the DA's office to come in and express what's going on from their perspective. But so far, no show.
Yeah. One final question. You have any confidence in the GBI investigation that's going to reveal anything?
Bob, I haven't seen the GBI investigation, so I
still question why do they need the GBI investigation?
Well, I don't know, but
after all the evidence they presented, what was there to investigate?
There was additional victims that came out. And so I think, for that reason, it was a win. Talking to Chuck, he hasn't given me any details. He probably can't. But he did feel like there was credible evidence that came forward. Chuck's been doing this a long time, and he feels like the evidence is there to pursue the grand jury, and as did ADA Tiffany. Why there's a gap now, we can only ask Higgins, and he's not been very transparent.
And when you say Chuck, you mean Sheriff Mosley of Wayne County?
Yes, sir.
Do we know if Nigel Lush is still in charge, or they have some?
He was immediately dismissed.
I heard he's gone as well.
He is. So this is, this Lush came out of nowhere, and I think, honestly, I have no proof of this, but I think Tiffany was gone for a reason. Okay, and Chuck came in, Lush came in, dismissed the charges. We all met, the three of us met with Higgins afterwards, and Higgins was, Lush didn't handle this the way I wanted him to. And so he's made another change, and he's moved another ADA in. We haven't talked with her at all, so I don't know anything about her.
Do we know her name? Do we know who is it?
I do not.
Okay, because I know Elizabeth, I think it's Presley. I can't think of her name either, but I met her last week in court. She was handling the Brown case. So anyway, so maybe we'll find out who the new, but like I said, it just keeps going from one prosecutor to the next, and it just, they just seem like they're kicking the can down the road. So I don't know, but like I said, we'll continue to follow the story. Again, we appreciate you coming in. We'll look at, once again, state the date and the time of the protest.
The protest will be this Wednesday from 11 to 3 in front of the DA's office. Please come out and join us. It's a peaceful protest. We don't want any trouble, no drama. We just need to make sure that everybody understands that these victims need to be heard.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you both for having us.
Thank you all for coming in.
Y'all take care. All right, Bob, just a quick word here. Once again, let's talk about what's going on at Bill Morris Park today.
The three Jimmys, Jimmy Peak, Jimmy Overstreet, Jimmy Martin, are going to be recognized and honored. They got unveiling of the signs. They're going to have a special ceremony. Former rec director Steve Card and Greg Walker will be on hand to speak, and Steve McGregor will speak as well. And then they'll unveil the signs. So the families are excited. Just three great guys that spent hours upon hours giving their time and umpiring ball games out there in all levels, softball, baseball, high school ball, you name it. They umpired those games for many, many years. So those 3 men will be recognized and honored, and those signs will be unveiled today. So looking forward to seeing Greg and Steve both back in town today. So again, the former rec directors will be on hand with the current rec directors, Lamar Speck Eccles, and should be a fun day. Plus, it's the first day of the baseball, softball recreation
That'll
season.
be packed out at Bill Morris Park. And the ceremony, you said, starts at 5 o'clock.
Right.
5 o'clock at
Ben Park Complex.
At Ben Park Complex.
Right.
At the Ben Park Complex. Okay.
Right. And also, good luck to the tennis teams today. They're hosting the region tennis tournament here. It gets underway this morning around 9 a.m.
Oh, wow. Early. Yeah. Okay.
So we wish them the best of luck. Hopefully they can advance to state.
Okay.
And the baseball team just has one game this week. That's Friday against Savannah Christian in Savannah. So, and Thursday night, a reminder that they've got the meet and greet with the new football coach at the Altamont Steak and Seafood. That's at 7 p.m. Thursday.
So Coach Morin will be there at
Right.
7 at Omaha Steak and Seafood.
Everybody's
meet and greet.
invited, right?
Okay.
Hopefully a good crowd shows up to that. And the Touchdown Club sponsoring that event. So looking forward to seeing the coach again. Saw him when he came by last week, but looking forward. Apparently he's putting a staff together. He's got the spring game set up already for the 17th of May. So,
And that's something. Went in and got it all set up with Johnson.
So Adam Smashers.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
spring graduation will be here before you know it.
I know. Let me tell you. It'll be the
winding
end of
down.
May, and they'll be walking across JC's.
Exactly. It'll be here before you know it.
Yep.
It's winding it down.
And did you say that the fair starts this week?
I think it's the 28th. Heather's supposed to come in one day this week. So I'm not sure what day she's coming in, but I think it kicks off this weekend.
Oh, this weekend usually starts on a Tuesday, so I was wondering. No, but we'll get Heather in and get that the details worked out on that on the spring fair put on by the Wayne County.
First day is the 28th.
28th. So it goes 28th, 29th, and 30th. Oh, then it's
Then
the
April-
next week.
right, April
So it's
1st
this
is-
weekend and next week.
Next week, right.
Okay, so it's a week and a half this year instead of just a week.
Right.
Sounds good.
She'll be
Fair's
awesome.
always fun.
Yep.
All right, Bob. Have a good day. All right, the world famous Butch and Bob show here on WIFO 105.5 FM in Jesup is brought to you by First Southern Bank, Van's Barbecue, Murphy Builder Supply, and O'Quinn and Associates.